Hey, Larken Rose here, and I make a lot of videos pointing out how unprincipled and fear-driven and irrational and immoral and kind of stupid and gullible people are, especially when it comes to politics. So, understandably, on a regular basis, people will say, well, so you think we're utterly doomed? No, I'm actually very optimistic. And I thought I'd do a quick video. I've mentioned some of this before, but I thought I'd do a quick video saying why I'm optimistic in spite of all the stupid stuff going on. And the whole, the Trump clown routine was particularly frustrating, and I made fun of it and bashed it and pointed out the insanity of supposedly pro-freedom people falling for just one more narcissistic, power-happy piece of crap. Because a lot of people who actually understand freedom and who actually stuck by the principles were kind of frustrated, understandably so, to see a bunch of people who should know better and a bunch of people who say they believe in freedom and pretend to believe in self-ownership suddenly jumping on the Mango Mussolini bandwagon and just losing their marbles. No, this time, this is the most important election of our lifetime, blah, 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 blah. And so I've been bashing them for a pretty long time. Now, at this point, Trump is bashing them himself. And basically calling, you're weaklings if you care that we're all horrible, corrupt, lying scumbags. So the fact that Trump is now bashing any Trump supporters who don't just blindly worship him no matter what he does, that's pretty funny. So I've felt the need to bash Trump supporters less since Trump is doing it himself, and since by now, if you haven't noticed the reality of Trump being one more puppet of the machine, I don't know what else would convince you anyway, so why should I bother saying anything about that? So that was very frustrating, and a bunch of people, a bunch of pro-freedom people who actually have principles, were very frustrated watching a bunch of people jump on the Trump bandwagon who should have known better and who pretended to be pro-freedom. And I've mentioned a bunch of them, some of them by name. I won't bother to here. And so a lot of pro-freedom people are like, we're doomed. If they're going to fall for that, like something that transparently just stupid, like Trump didn't even do a good job of pretending to be pro-freedom. He didn't even try to pretend to be pro-freedom. He pretended to be anti-establishment, which he wasn't. But watching all the people fall for that, I completely sympathize with the people who just say, people are too dumb, we're doomed, this is going to go on forever, people are never going to learn. But I wanted to make this video to explain why I think those people are totally wrong. Again, I completely understand why they think that, and I very much sympathize with the frustration. But here is why statism is doomed, in spite of how gullible and forgetful and unprincipled and stupid people are. Like, they seem to just like, oh, I can explain a principle. And then some new clown gets added to the circus, and I'm like, oh, vote for him, I'll fix everything. So yeah, I understand why people are frustrated. And here's why in the long run, it doesn't matter at all. If you're gauging what humanity is going to believe in the future, humanity as a whole, like society as a whole, based on what they believe now and what they believed last week and what they believed the year before, but you oversimplify it, you're going to get an oversimplified, inaccurate conclusion. For example, if you say, well, people stupidly believe in politics now and they stupidly believed in it last week and last year and 10 years ago and 50 years ago, they're going to keep stupidly believing in it. That's an oversimplification, and it misses something very fundamental. And I've talked about this in more depth in other places. All of the indications that the belief in authority, not even just at the intellectual level, but just at the gut level, has been falling apart for years. That's actually why they brought in the outlandish Trump clown, to try to make people care about politics again and try to make them pay attention to it again, because the run-of-the-mill lukewarm BS artists that both parties were putting up Nobody cared about them. Nobody was paying any attention, so they had to shake things up. They had to jump the shark by bringing in that ridiculous clown, and it worked on a few people. But if you look at the long-term pattern of respect for authority, it's been falling apart all over the place. People don't talk about the president and congressmen with great respect anymore. In fact, almost nobody does. Like, some people will go, yeah, he's our president, he's going to save the day. Well, is he a lying scumbag? Well, yeah. Is he kind of an idiot? Well, yeah. No, he's a super genius. I mean, so even the ones they cheer for, they're like, well, he's corrupt and yeah, he's not entirely there. And, and people, both parties do this constantly. But the overall respect for the office and for congressmen and for the whole game has been falling apart. And the more people see through it and the more people recognize that the entire game is completely corrupt and bogus and they're all absolute sellouts, which a bunch of people just learned the hard way after supporting Trump, the more on a gut instinctive level, people start to lose the feeling of an obligation to bow to authority. How many people do you think actually today feel a deep moral obligation to pay their taxes so they can fund warmongering and Ponzi schemes and all the ridiculous corruption that the Doge thing talked about and then did nothing about? But they pointed out the corruption and people see it. You think lots of people slaving away is like, oh, you're earning paycheck, trying to pay all the bills. Oh, here comes look how much they're withholding from taxes. Well, that's necessary and that's good. And I'm proud to pay my taxes so that we can bomb some more people in a country I've never heard of over something that I don't know anything about. Or so we can hand out billions and billions and billions of dollars to that warmongering country over there. Like, it's not even our military. We're paying somebody else. Now we're delegating our war crimes to Israel. Our Make America the biggest war criminal again. We can't be delegating our war crimes to another country. We should bring back war crimes to the U.S. So tons of people, left and right, are losing faith and losing any feeling they don't actually think, well, you have to work hard to pay these taxes so they fix the roads. No, they think, holy smokes, look at the billions of dollars they just throw around at either stupid crap or evil crap most of the time. Now, lots of people can say, well, I wish they would spend tax dollars on helping the poor, or building libraries, or strengthening the police, or, whatever flavor of statist agenda somebody might support, but hardly anybody thinks they do that. They know it's just massive amounts of corruption and waste, and it's just ridiculous. And then Trump's out there, we're going to spend $1 trillion a year on a new military. To fight who? There isn't another superpower anymore. Why do you need $1 trillion a year? So we can start wars with Iran and Syria and a few other places. Because he's one more puppet of the war machine. Lots of people learn that the hard way too. But if you're only looking at people's sort of intellectual understanding and they're still voting and still following the political game and still going, my party's awesome, your party sucks. Yeah, it's understandable that you would think, we're doomed. They've been doing this stupid crap for ages. They're going to do it forever. But that misses a very fundamental part. Let me put it this way. Sounds kind of insulting. The bad news is people are mostly stupid sheep who don't know how to think for themselves. They follow the crowd wherever it may go. The good news is people are stupid sheep who don't know how to think for themselves, and they follow the crowd wherever it may go. Now, overall, I wouldn't call that a good thing. However, human progress in the right direction on a whole bunch of things has been the result of a tiny minority pushing humanity in the right direction. So all those idiots out there voting either party and thinking the politicians care about them and represent them and they're going to save the day and blah, blah, left, right, whatever. How many of those people think slavery is okay? Like owning people is okay? Zero. Is it because they thought things out and philosophically decided, I've been living in this society where there's slavery and I've decided that's wrong? No, they're living in a society where there isn't any, because not that long ago, a bunch of weird radical extremists said, this is profoundly evil. I know humanity's been doing this like all over the world for a really long time, kind of for all of recorded history, but it's really freaking evil and we shouldn't be doing this anymore. And those wacky extremist abolitionists and people willing to just disobey the law and break the back of that horrible institution made slavery fall apart. And eventually it led to everybody, at least everybody in the Western world, other than a few psychos who have to hide what they're doing now, Epstein. People think slavery is bad. And I can't overstress how recent a development that is. It wasn't even 200 years ago when in the U.S., it was legal and it was largely societally accepted, of course, mostly accepted by the people doing the owning, that, yeah, you can own people. They're just livestock. They look like people. They sound like people. But they're just livestock. We're allowed to own them. That wasn't that long ago. In the scale of human history, as thousands of years back as we know about, that's here. That people were like, this is really bad. And now it's everybody. That was pretty damn fast, where lots of already a bunch of people were like, slavery is kind of horrible and I hate it, but whatever. It's legal and it's kind of accepted. I guess that's just how things are. We went from that to almost everybody in the Western world, except for a few psychos who have to say things quietly behind closed doors, saying that's profoundly evil. That's about as bad as you can get. It's sort of debatable whether it's worse to treat someone like your property or kill them. If their whole life is going to be your property, that might be as bad as killing them. Slavery is about as bad a thing as you can do to another human being. And now most people recognize that, including the stupid people, including the people who don't know how to think for themselves, which is most people, including the sheep, because people who weren't sheep dragged the whole frickin' herd away from that legal accepted institution and said, that's frickin' evil. We're going to keep saying it's frickin' evil until we drag the whole herd away. And they disobeyed in different ways. They tried to do some by way of politics. They tried to do some by way of just disobeying, Underground Railroad and juries saying, yeah, we're not going to convict anybody under the fugitive slave laws because those are sort of evil and insane. And so that shift and it's monumentally huge, and this is really significant, but it didn't happen in our lifetime. So that can just sort of feel like, well, that was just a world away. Slavery, owning other people. Yeah, I guess it wasn't that many generations ago, but that's, we don't have that now. No, we don't have that now. But the reason we don't have that now isn't because the majority carefully thought things out and applied basic moral principles. It was because some weirdo rebel radicals said, this is frickin' evil and we're going to do whatever we can to destroy it. And people were out there philosophizing about it and talking about it. Frederick Douglass and a bazillion other people. Other people were sabotaging it on purpose, breaking the law. How dare they, to help slaves escape and to try to do whatever they could to interfere with that heinous institution. And they won. And now the herd is over here. Well, guess what? When it comes to statism and the notion that, yeah, those people, because constitutions and elections and scribbles on paper and stuff, those people have the right to rule us. That profoundly idiotic belief is still almost universally accepted around the world. Here's the thing. In my lifetime, which is 0% of human history, like, kind of old, not that stinking, I'm 57. In my stinking lifetime, in fact, in half of my lifetime, because it was 1996 when I stopped believing in government, when I became a voluntarist, I didn't know anybody else who believed that. I mean, I knew some books, Albert J. Knox said some things, and Frederick Bastiat said something. But in the real world, everybody believed in government. I didn't know anybody who, like, lots of people would complain about it and say it's corrupt and evil and stuff, but of course we need government. I knew 0 other people at the beginning who thought that government is inherently bogus. Now I know thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, a huge number of which I've met. And the discussion online, just this video that you're watching right now, like, I have 70-some thousand subscribers. Now, doesn't mean everybody who subscribes is a voluntarist, but even if half of them, even if like 10,000, even if a seventh of them are voluntarists, that's 10,000 more voluntarists than I knew when I started doing this. That's just my lifetime. That's a speck. That's a second in human history. So the swing away from statism, yeah, we're not there. It didn't swing to the other side yet. Most people still believe it. But there is absolutely such a thing as sort of cultural momentum. And in my lifetime, we have swung hard away from authoritarianism. Now, of course, there's still plenty of bootlickers and people making excuses. But now, when there's a video about police abuse, there should be, there's also a whole bunch of people going, you fascist bonehead, that was frickin' evil. The guys who did that should not have badges. They should probably be in cages. I remember a time when nobody would dare to say that in public. Nobody would dare to bash the police. Nobody would dare to bash the troops for doing evil crap. All the way nobody. Like maybe in hushed tones in some back room, but you don't publicly come out and say, the troops suck, cops suck. The only people who would say that or even think that are horrible, evil criminals. Now, huge numbers of very productive, nice, decent people recognize cops suck. Their job is inherently evil. They are mindless thugs of a violent, immoral, parasitical ruling class. Now, most people don't believe that yet, but there's a discussion of it. Because thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people now do recognize that, and they talk about it. And that's the thing, back in the time when nobody dared to say it, nobody else heard it. It wasn't a discussion at all. Now you have people all the way saying, yeah, government's bogus, shouldn't exist. And they're saying it on shows with kind of huge audiences, like way beyond my dumb little channel here. It's a thing that's come up in discussion. Now, most people go, well, I don't know government, but yeah, they're corrupt, and we hate both sides, and how about not having, no, I think we still need blah, blah, blah. So there's plenty of distance that lots of people have to philosophically travel, but on an emotional gut level, the respect for authority has just been falling apart for a very long time. And has been swinging hard away from that. And the fact that we can be so blunt and talk about these things, and like if 5 people believe this, 5 people would mysteriously have committed suicide by shooting themselves in the back 14 times, tying themselves up and throwing themselves in a river. 5 people would have gotten Clintoned if there were only 5 people talking about this and who think this. It's thousands and thousands and thousands. It's to the point that the psychos in power can't do anything about it. Like, it's spreading all over the place. They don't control the discussion. I mean, they try. They're still trying as hard as they can, and they do their propaganda, and they try to spin this and lie about that, and, obviously they're still playing that game, but this discussion is all over the place. And if you get, like, if you had the institution of slavery and like 10% of slaves are saying, I think this is like totally illegitimate and we don't have any obligation to go along with this and we have every right to run away or rise up or do whatever, that institution is going to be doomed. Now, most people living today would think, well, of course, not just 10%, but probably most slaves thought that. No, they didn't. They really, really didn't. If you don't believe me, you can read Frederick Douglass, who was a slave, and he lived with slaves, and he studied and wrote extensively about the mentality of slaves and of slave masters, too. And he got a firsthand, just heinous education in the intellectual and philosophical and spiritual journey that someone has to go through to get from thinking that, well, I'm the property of that guy, to thinking, no, I'm not, I own myself. Well, that's a pretty damn close parallel to the journey that lots of people have to go through now, which is like, well, of course you have to pay taxes to a ruling class, and of course they get to boss us around and tell us where we can work and eat and all these things, interfere with our lives a million different ways. And getting people to go, wait, maybe they don't, maybe I own myself. It's the same parallel thing people have to figure out. Now, our level of existence right now, because the evil slave masters aren't that stupid, is way, way, way more comfortable. The brutality, in most cases anyway, is way less obvious, way less brutal. It's not literally, I'm going to whip you if you don't go work for me. It's something that is way more effective for the ruling class because it annoys the subject class a whole lot less often. It's literally just better management of human livestock than doing it by brute force. Speaking of which, if you hadn't seen Jones Plantation, why the hell not? Go watch it because it explains, yeah, the old school brute force tyrant thing kind of can work a little bit for a certain amount of time, but to truly own a man, he needs to think that your word is law and that he is obligated to obey and virtuous for doing so. That is the lie that lots and lots of people are outgrowing now, even while the masses are stupid and unthinking and everything else. But that lie at the gut level is spreading to a whole bunch of people who maybe still haven't even thought about it at all. But at the feeling level, at the cultural level, at the societal level, respect for authority has been falling apart at the seams, and it's going to keep doing that until the whole world, including all the people who just kind of follow the herd and they don't really think for themselves and they don't really know how to think for themselves, including all of them, will figure out, why did we ever think politicians ever had any right to do anything? It's just as ridiculous as divine right of kings. The world is going to know that, even while still being mostly stupid and gullible and not that thoughtful and kind of forgetful. All the other not so positive qualities that mankind keeps demonstrating. But it's still going to happen anyway for the exact same reason that eventually slavery was going to fall apart. Because some people were going to keep working until it did, and then the rest of the herd was going to go, oh, okay, yeah, I think you're right, that is bad. Let's move over here. That's how statism is going to go too, which is why I'm actually optimistic. Even though lots of my videos are pointing out how stupid and gullible and short-sighted people are. But even those stupid, short-sighted, gullible people, they're still all going to be voluntarists in the not-too-distant future. All of them. Because none of them have the mental fortitude to hang on to the stupid crap they now believe when the rest of the herd has moved on to peaceful coexistence in a stateless society. So they're all going to let go and go, oh, okay, well, yeah, I used to believe that because everybody did, but now everybody doesn't. Guess we're going this way. So yeah, I'm really dang optimistic. Statism is absolutely, completely, inevitably doomed. I don't know exactly when, although it's been happening way faster than I nearly would have predicted 20 years ago, when I was already a voluntarist and nobody else I knew. Well, by then it was a few people. Nobody else was. We're absolutely going to get there. It's inevitable. And so, yeah, keep pushing and keep daring to say it out loud, because that's one of the main things. If people never hear it, people never think about it. But when they hear it, even if the first reaction is, that sounds extreme, the seed is stuck in their brain. And for a lot of people, even people who don't philosophize and think that much, that seed's going to bother them. They're going to go, do we have an obligation to give money to these crooks? Every other day there's another story about the evil crap they do and the heinous, corrupt war crimes and all sorts of other crimes they do on a regular basis. Why are we obeying these people and paying tribute to them? When enough people ask themselves that question, the answer becomes, oh, just because we did before, now we're not going to anymore. And when that happens, all the ruling classes are gone, and there is not a damn thing the political psychopaths will be able to do to keep their scam alive.